Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by the venerable William Brad Allis. Hello, William. How you doing?
I'm venerable now?
The venerable. I like that. That's what we're going to go with right here. Venerable.
Wait, isn't he the head coach at Oklahoma?
He had that would be Brett Venables.
Venables, okay.
Yes. Brett Venables, same thing. But, all right, we got a lot to get to the show. We're going to talk, obviously, U of A basketball, some U of A football, all of that. But first, Brad, I think that now, granted, Arizona wasn't playing the greatest competition overseas. Totally understand all that. But I think one thing that we can definitely come away with is that there are certain players on this roster that are 100% going to play this year. And there's about 3 guys that you kind of wonder where exactly those minutes are going to come from.
Yeah, we've all heard of confirmation bias. This trip, I think, was in many ways biased confirmation. We took in certain attitudes and thoughts about players. I think for the most part, with the exception of one guy, they were confirmed. I think you're looking at, there's a clear, no doubt about it, top 6 guys who are set in the rotation, pencil it in, Sharpie it in. And that's no surprise. It's Balo, it's Keshad Johnson, it's Love Bradley, Boswell, and it's Pelle Larsson.
Those 6 are going to play a lot.
Then you've got 3 or 4 who are competing for 2, maybe 2.5 spots.
Right.
Right now, I have Krivas over Vesar. Granted, Vesar had the injury, he had the illness. But Krivas is ahead of him right now. But I don't think Vesar is out of the running for playing time. Then you've got Polyim, who showed some things that first game, didn't play the third game, which I think was the most important game. And then you got KJ Lewis, who I think we all believed was on the outside looking in for playing time and might still because of the log jam of similar players. But the kid can play. The kid is good. He's big enough in that 6'4", 205 range that if Arizona is really going to go 3-guard lineup with some version of Pelle, Love, and now him at the 3, you can get away with that. If they go Pelle at the 4 occasionally, you can put him in there. He's bigger than, a couple of the other guys. And then, unfortunately, if right now you're Dylan Anderson, you're Philly B, and you're Conrad Martinez, you're just on the outside looking in. Oddly enough, I came actually away feeling better about Philly B than I did.
He doesn't look like wasted space.
And if he had to play 10 to 15 minutes a game, it's not a bad thing. He's just not going to play 10 or 15 minutes on this roster.
Right.
Now, it's a numbers game.
You mentioned KJ Lewis. Let's talk about KJ Lewis a little bit. This reminds me a little bit, and again, I'm just talking about body type and frame because one thing, I think a lot of scouting services probably missed the boat on him a little bit. Just by looking at him, this is not a fringe top 100 prospect right there. That's not what we saw. He's got a little bit, again, I've always thought that Hassan Adams was the most quick twitch leaper that I've ever seen here, is just being able but there's a little bit of Hassan right there, just in his body type, the way that he can jump, his strength. There's a little bit of that there, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, Hassan was a little bit bigger. He was in that 6'5", 6'6" range. I think he got to campus at about 210, 215. But he was probably, that year he had to play power forward out of position. He was probably sitting about 220 of pure muscle. But I could see those comparisons. I think in the scheme of things, it'll be hard pressed for me to believe that KJ Lewis is a better explosive athlete than Hassan Adams. Because again, you're talking top 5,
maybe the best. I mean,
maybe,
right.
I'd put him right there though with guys like Reggie, with Richard, guys like that. Yeah. But KJ Lewis may also be a better offensive player at this stage. Certainly, probably a better shooter. Not a great shooter, but a good shooter. Whereas Adams never really was. Not. I mean, Adams was always kind of, if Adams was 6'8", he would have been a better version of Bing Davis. Unfortunately, he was about 6'5". But yeah, I think KJ Lewis, he is the big winner of this trip, as I really came away impressed with him and thinking his role may be bigger than we anticipated coming into this year, where we thought he was going to have to, just kind of apprenticeship. And I think he's clearly going to play. How much? Again, it's a numbers game. Unfortunately, again, there are 5 guys ahead of him who are just older and more polished versions of what he is.
What he really does, though, is he really gives you a fun little toy to play with next year for sure, because he's going to be, and we talked about this a little bit before. I've always thought the Jalen Clark at UCLA career progression is something that you'd like to see from KJ Lewis. Doesn't play a ton as a freshman, gets into that rotation as a sophomore, and then blows up as a junior.
Yeah, and again, he may be a little more ahead of schedule than we thought. Next year's backcourt could be ridiculous.
Right.
If KJ Lewis progresses, assuming Bradley, Boswell are back, you bring in, Carter and Jabari, and I assume Pella's gone, but I think Pella has another year.
Pella's got another year. He does.
If he wants it. I don't think Caleb Love does have the extra year. I might be wrong.
Caleb Love does have another year.
So, yeah, it could be ridiculous. But my guess is, the KJ Lewis will play. Probably not. He might. Maybe I'm going to get a totally different play. But maybe like a role Dickerson had as a freshman, where you really knew he probably should be playing more.
Right.
But where do you put him?
Right, for sure. All right, we got a question here from Angel C. Is the out-of-conference schedule finished? If not, any speculations on matchups, tourneys? It is finished, and it is a bear of a schedule. And I got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit on this schedule right here, because, again, we haven't seen a schedule like this in quite a while. You got Duke, you got Michigan State, you've got Alabama, you got Purdue, you got Wisconsin. You got 3 or 4 national title contenders there before you even hit conference play there, Brad.
Yeah, and some of the mid majors are also kind of intriguing, and then there are some absolute cupcakes. But really, it's one of those where if you lose 3 or 4 of those games, it probably doesn't hurt you, because again, I don't think the Pac-12 is very good this year,
right?
Especially at the bottom. I can make an argument that the top might be interesting, but some things have to click. But this will get you battle tested. And again, if you can, if I remember correctly, there were 6 tough games, and my thought was you go 3-3 in those 6, because at least one of them, the Duke game is a true road game. I think only one of them, Michigan State, is a true neutral site game.
Right. Palm Springs.
Yeah, I forget. I know you don't play all those guys on the home court, but they're not. Where are they playing? I think I want to say Purdue is in the Midwest, so it's not like a true road game or a true neutral site game. But it's a good battle tested. It reminds me of some of the better loot schedules, and I understand some of the reasoning behind Sean Miller's scheduling. He always was a guy. It took him a while to get everything implemented. He also, wanted people to come to McHale, and they weren't going to come to McHale. Probably some of that's probably because some people didn't want to come to McHale because of Sean Miller. Right. But Tommy Lloyd obviously getting people to play him and not afraid to play people on, where are they going? They're going to Birmingham, I think, next year for that neutral site game. It'll be pretty interesting to see how this continues to evolve. Because Lute wasn't always worried about wins and losses. It was about finding enough matchups of styles and talent. And you're not only getting 5 or 6 really good teams, but although you are getting 3 Big Ten teams, they're all a little bit different. You're going to have to go against one of the better big men in the country. You're going to have to go against a rugged team. You're going to have to go against a super athletic Alabama team. A bunch of fab freshmen at Duke. So it's going to be interesting, battle tested for sure.
We're going to talk about the U of A big men up front, the 4 peaks. But first, we need to talk about OGs. All right, here's the deal. Being a PHNX listener just got a whole lot sweeter thanks to our buds at OGs Brands. Right now through August 31st, you can get 25% off 100 milligram bags of the fruits and the creams at all Arizona The Flower Shop locations. All you have to do is go to theflowershopusa.com, place an online order, and use discount code PHNX at checkout. Then head to the nearest The Flower Shop location to pick up. That's right. The deal is exclusive to our PHNX listeners, and reminder, it's available only for online orders that are picked up in person. Discount code PHNX is active until August 31st. So go get on to hashtag flavoring life. All right, Barry on 520. Interesting comp right here. I don't think that KJ Lewis has as many basketball skills as Juwan McClellan does at the same point, but but I think he's also a better, just maybe a natural run jump athlete. It's an interesting comparison right there, Brad.
No, I definitely see that. Juwan was a guy who, again, one of the great what ifs in Arizona basketball history. What if
right at the top? Yep.
What if he doesn't get hurt? What if he doesn't have that? His dad died, and then his friend got convicted of murder, and he had some basically some mental health issues dealing with life. But he was an immensely talented kid. Yeah, I think Juwan McClellan was a better basketball player. I think he had a better pure jump shot at this stage. But I don't think it's a terrible comparison. Maybe if you mixed Hassan and Juwan, maybe you get.
I think their upside. I think the proverbial upside is probably fairly similar. Very good call there, Bear Down 520. By the way, we got all the A's in here. Casey Kennedy, Zona Tucson, all kinds of good stuff. Tony Clifton, the venerable aged statesman here. Brad Allis cracked me up a little bit. Now,
I mean,
do we worry? I don't worry about. I don't worry about Umar Balo being out of shape per se, but I'm also annoyed by it. I'll just be honest with you. It's one thing when you're a freshman, you're coming in, or heck, even a sophomore. Umar Balo, in my opinion, should know better than to come in looking like that. And on top of that, Brad, he was having a hard time getting up and down the court. I need better out of Umar Balo.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about an injury on the offseason. In fact, I want to say he played some international games for, maybe I'm wrong on that one. But if there's not an injury, there's really no excuse. Again, coming in less than perfect conditioning, fine. But
coming in looking like Isaiah Fox is not cool.
Yeah, Dion Broom.
Dion Broom, Mesa Westwood's finest.
Because here's the thing that hurts him. There were scouts at that last game.
Right.
International teams are watching. And you come in out of shape, and that's already kind of been the knock on you. And he came in such great. Now, again, he's an elite athlete. I mean, we're making fun of. By the time of the Red-Blue game in 36 days, he may be 15 pounds lighter and look great.
Right.
But you shouldn't have to work that hard leading into the season.
You need to be in shape to where you improve on that shape, not out of shape to get back to where you were. That's what's annoying to me about the leader of man, Umar Balo.
And again, it shows poor leadership. Again, unless he was hurt and there's a reason, maybe he had a knee. I haven't heard of anything, so I'm speculating. Because again, Vesar missed some time with injury, and then got that's understandable. If Balo was perfectly healthy and just decided to go live like Luka Doncic on the offseason, then that's not good. And
this wasn't a good move because you got a different Mount Crevis is a different animal than what we had on this roster last year. You got a 7-foot big man 7'2" big man coming in here that, I mean, let's just be honest here. Watching those games, if you didn't know anything about either player, you would say that's the better player right there. Do it, say it.
No, you're right. And if Balo's not careful, again, he's got a long way to slip. But again, Vesar's not a stiff. Vesar can play. Pauly M can play at the 4, and you can lose minutes. Yeah. And here's a guy who is still trying to. He has that slimmest of slim chances of getting into the NBA, and this does not help because he has to show his athleticism combined with his power. But yeah, international basketball. He is a guy who can play the international game. Who can't? But there's a big difference between playing in a Spain or a Italy and playing in
the higher international
Belgium.
leagues.
So
here's the best way I can put it, and this is with all due respect to both players because they're both Tucsonans and they're both awesome. There's a difference between getting paid like Bryce Cotton and Lester Medford.
There's a difference of being, say, I don't know, Michael Wright, who made millions playing in Turkey and Spain, and no offense to him, Corey Williams, who was the Michael Jordan of Belgium, but the Michael Jordan of Belgium does not get paid like the right.
You're playing against dudes like Aaron Anderson at that point. Our guy Aaron Anderson. Don't be besmirching the name of. I love Aaron Anderson. I see Aaron Anderson all the time. All right. By the way, Zona Germany says Henry is not playing center. In my opinion, he will play the 4. I don't know about that one. because I think Keyshawn Johnson's going to be playing Keyshawn Johnson's playing 30 minutes a game right there at the 4.
It depends on Paulie M, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
If that guy is good enough to play the 4, then that basically pushes Vesar competing with Krivas and Balo for minutes at the 5. If they go small, like they did to start I think it was the Lebanon game that Pella started at the 4. Might have been the second one. So again, is Vesar, could he play the 4? Maybe. Again, it may just be a numbers game.
Oh, we got the great Brad Rich in here again, a man of 2 first names. We like that right here. Brad Rich says, where did Brad Rich? How important is the BYU basketball program? One thing that I found out on Twitter is that BYU basketball fans 100% believe they have the best home court advantage in all of college basketball. I say no, they don't, Brad Allis.
I've never been there.
That doesn't mean you can't say that they're wrong.
I don't think they're right. I will say the best home court advantage may be another Big 12 team. It may be Kansas.
Right.
Kansas is the best I've been to. It's
right.
Kansas 1, McHale 2, huge drop off. And I will tell you what I think the third best one was at its peak, at its 4th peak. And it didn't last very long. Cal.
Really?
When Cal was rocking and rolling.
When Jason Kidd, Lamont Murray were there?
No, it was later. I was there, but for some of those Ed
Gray?
The early 2000s. I thought they were underrated. I thought Maples was slightly overrated because Maples had the McHale issue. Great student section, albeit overrated. The rest of the crowd was on their hands. Cal could be rocking at times, and they had a great student, including my all-time favorite kid dressed as one half combination of Clockwork Orange and Braveheart. With the umbrella as the sword leading the charge. Yeah, they were really good, but nothing compared to Kansas except for McHale at its best.
All right, speaking of Kansas right here, and maybe I know I've been beaten up by some Arizona fans right here. Won't be the first, won't be the last. I don't have a problem with this tournament in Kansas City. Char Fred says, Brad, how can the Big 12 tolerate a permanent home court advantage for Kansas for their basketball tournament? They tried moving things around. Exactly. They tried moving things around, and they decided this is where they can get the most money.
Geographically, it is very central, especially now that Oklahoma and Texas are gone. They tried playing it in Dallas. I want to say they tried playing it in either Oklahoma City or Tulsa, and it just you sell tickets in Kansas City. A, they're diehard Kansas fans, right? Yeah. B, you got a lot of K-State fans, and for a while back, it's not a far drive if you're an Iowa State fan, if you're an Oklahoma State fan. The place will sell. I forget. I don't know what the new arena is. When they had it, the old arena, it was seated like 13 or 14, and you'll get 9,000-10,000 every game, regardless of who's playing. It's a money thing. I'd love to see them try it in Vegas. Obviously, it's an advantage for Arizona. The funny thing is, though, Kansas's record in the Big 12 tournament has not been gaudy compared to them. What have they won? Something like a share of 12 or 13 straight Big 12 championships.
I think it was more like 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number that they've won at least a share of Big 12 championships. And so sometimes they're not playing for anything in the Big 12 tournament. But selfishly, it could be fun. Because
I get it. Do you see what you just did?
I did. I could go stay with family and I can go eat barbecue for 5 days. So that may be on the docket in the next couple years.
Brad Allis, to give you an idea, Brad Allis considers Matt Muehlbach family. That's who he would be staying with right there in Kansas City. Another Kansas City great, Matt Muehlbach.
Yeah. I don't know if Maddie's family's opened the doors to me, but I have plenty of family there. My dad's from there. So if you ever see this hat, this is not a Patrick Mahomes thing, although he is.
Brad was there way before. Brad was there when we had Captain Checkdown running the thing.
As people like to say, how long have you been a Chiefs fan? I say since Steve Fuller, and about 2 of you will understand that reference.
Right. No, by the way, this best of a barbecue show in the Big 12, that is a good idea there, Jervis. We will, and hold on, I'm going to write that down. We're going to work on that. By the way, Brad, when you go to the Midwest, how often do you see Circle K's there?
Not enough, although they are there.
That is the problem. Not enough. We need more Circle K's, not less Circle K's in the Midwest. Here's the deal with Circle K. Make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff. Right now, text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club and get a buy one, get one free Polar Pop. That's how cool it is right there. By the way, I like Bear 520 down. By the way, awesome dude. It will feel great, though, to beat Kansas in the Big 12 tournament next year on their own court. That's the way I am about this one. I'd love to see, by the way, AZ Fan 93, that's not true. Not true. That will be stricken from the record. But Bear 520 down says, that would be fun. And I'm not opposed to having it in Vegas. But I say we get our feel of the land a little bit first. Let's see how Casey is. I don't think that we need to start demanding things. That's all I'm saying there, William.
No, and if that's what's worked for the conference, obviously there's a reason to do it, and obviously that might be, which is why the Arizona's in the Big 12. And hopefully we're not in a position as Wildcat fans of needing a Big 12 tournament win to get in the tournament.
Right.
Because really it's just extra fun basketball.
For sure.
And again, if you can do it, and again, Kansas City, not necessarily the nightlife of a Vegas or even in LA, but good food, good people, some cool things to do around town. Again, I'm very familiar with it, but there's the World War I Museum, there's a Jazz Museum, there's the Negro Baseball League Museum. You got the Royals in town. I guess they'd still be in spring training, but
right.
Soccer. There's a lot to do, some cool stuff. And again, the people are generally pretty cool, good old Midwestern people who love college basketball.
All right, we're going to get to Arizona football here in a little bit, but first we want to talk about we're going to break down the teams moving into the Big 12 right here and what to expect. Obviously, there's a few different teams in there, but first and foremost, the teams that are going to be going in there this year and how we think they're going to fare immediate future, long-term. Houston. I think Houston's not going to run the conference, but I think Houston is going to do very, very well right out the gate there, Brad.
Yeah, I think both Houston football and Houston basketball are going to get bumps,
right?
Which will trickle down, I think, to some other programs. Obviously, there's still some questions about Dana Holgorsen at Houston. He hasn't been overly successful there, considering the run that the last three guys prior to him had, including Kevin Sumlin. But as long as Kelvin Sampson's there, and my guess is it gets handed over to his son when he's done, which again might be nepotism, but it worked for Washington State. So I think they're going to be
I'm not opposed to nepotism if it's qualified nepotism.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
That's one of those things. I'm more than all right with that. By the way, so I think they're going to be good. And Kelvin Sampson obviously is one of the best coaches in college basketball. I think they are going to take a little bit of a leap though, because like you said, it's going to be a little easier for them to recruit. They've already had a lot of success. He runs a fun style to play in. It makes a lot of sense there, Brad, that you would be able to that they would get a bump out of this. And I think that Houston's going to be around for quite a while in basketball, assuming that his son can coach.
And if you're my age, you remember that when it was the Southwest Conference, obviously they had a Final Four contending team for, a decade. Obviously with Phi Slama Jama was their peak. But they also had a darn good football program. And then when they lost what we call Power 5, it wasn't called Power 5 back then, but they really lost some luster and prestige. And but yeah, if you just recruit 50% of the best players in Houston, you're going to compete.
Oh, by the way, Brad Rich says, I met the great Mike Luke. Oh, the great Mike Luke at NYNY Hotel
There's another
week.
one?
Yeah, I guess there is. It ain't me. The hat is cleaner in person. Oh, the hat is very cool. My mom hates the hat. I do not care. I will have this hat until it falls off. That's how committed I am to this hat right here. I like this hat. All right, now let's make fun of BYU for a minute here. BYU, first of all, BYU is very good in football for sure. There's no doubt about it. Bronco Mendenhall was good. Sataki was good. It's a good football program.
It's always been a good football program.
Always been a good football program for sure. No. In basketball, though, I'm not intimidated about playing BYU anywhere they want to play. It's not the best home court advantage. I've never been there. Don't need to go there. It's just kind of a meh basketball program to me right there, William.
I think they get a bump by playing in a major conference, which they've really never done In basketball. Obviously, they were an independent for years because I think Pope is a good coach. If he stays,
I like Pope. Pope is a good coach for sure.
As long as he is there, they're going to be. In fact, when he was on the short list for Arizona, I was not complaining. He might have been my third or fourth.
Kentucky National Championship 1997. Mark Pope still living at the free throw line.
Transfer from UW.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out Barcelona.
So, yeah, so I think basketball will get a little bit of a bump. That I kind of was wondering if they'd get from being in the WCC, and they really became the third or fourth best team in that conference. But yeah, I think they get a little bump, and football will always be what football is. Their big problem is you're now consistently competing for those LDS players, not only with Utah, but with a lot. It's not as quite a big a deal to go to BYU. It still is a pretty big deal. And yeah, so I think they'll get a bump in football and a bump in basketball, but not huge. But yeah.
Here's how you know our esteemed producer, Jacob Franklin, is awesome. I'm looking right at Jacob Franklin right now off the screen in his gray, and he says, I have arrived. That's what you say. When somebody tells you I have arrived, they know that the equation has changed immediately there, Brad. Jacob Franklin is doing just that. Jacob Franklin, welcome to the show. BYU, though, is always going to be, to me, kind of meh. But I will say this. I do side with them in the Holy War. I like BYU fans more than Utah fans. So BYU fans, take that.
I've only become – I would say this. Back when I used to run message boards, never really had a huge problem with either fan base. But on Twitter, man, those Utah fans are something else. I don't know if it's a Twitter thing instead of a – and ironically, I actually ran for a brief time a Scout.com Utah site. Helped some people run it.
Did you?
Yeah, it didn't go real well. It didn't last real well but the fans were –
You're going to have to tell me about this offline. I want to hear them.
But essentially, yeah, Utah fans are really interesting on Twitter. I don't know if it's on message boards, but on Twitter.
All right, Mike, are you going to sing some Bone Thugs and Harmony? That's a good point. I will. Hold on. I will. I'll get that to the end of the show. But yes, you have my word on that one right there. Maybe first of the month. All right, now let's talk about UCF. UCF in football is really, really good. It's now a 3-coach school. Scott Frost was obviously good there. Josh Heupel was really good. And now Gus Malzahn. I think all those dudes are going to be good. I don't really buy UCF hoops, though, and I definitely don't buy Johnny Dawkins, which means that I don't buy the combination of those two.
No, I think UCF football will continue. Although it'll be interesting how they deal with a tougher schedule. Obviously, I support their mythical national championship from that year because it was an SEC champion. So I always support any contrarian to the SEC narrative. But are they going to be able to win 10, 12 games in the new Big 12? I don't know. But again, hot recruiting base. So they won't be bad, but it could be. We may not be putting a second, whatever it was, matrix RPI.net.urs national championship under their name either.
Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati. I think Wes Miller is a good coach. It's 2-coach school with Mick Cronin and obviously Bobby Huggins right there. Obviously a tough brand of basketball. I like them. I think Cincinnati can make some plays.
Well, my dad, the esteemed Art Allis, would tell you it goes way back further than Bob Huggins.
Oscar Robertson.
Yeah, where they used to play for national championships against. Ironically enough, I think my dad saw him play in the Final Four twice against.
I should say post Peach Basket era.
Exactly. I apologize. Football will be interesting to see what they do now that they've moved on. But they've always been relatively good at football. Mm-hmm.
Just bring in Bobby Petrino or somebody, you'll be fine.
I forgot who they hired, but it seemed like a good hire.
People out there, who did Cincinnati hire as their
I can't think of it, but yeah, obviously Fickle went to Wisconsin. So, but yeah, I think they'll get a small bump from the conference. But Cincinnati's just always been a consistently good program. They and Houston are very similar. They're kind of commuter schools. They don't have a big out of region fan base, but they're very solid where they're at.
Who are the 2 best Cincinnati players that we've seen in our lifetime? Danny Fortson and Kenyon Martin?
Nick Van Exel would be the only other one I'd probably put in that list.
Not Melvin Flint?
No, I don't think I would go Melvin Flint. I think
I do. I like Melvin Flint.
He was good. He was no Nicky Van Headbutt.
He was not Nick Van Exel. That is true. But we go Kenyon Martin and Danny Fortson there, correct?
might go Van Exel over Fortson, but that's
really over Fortson.
Maybe. It's
all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, now let's talk about the teams coming in here, because here's where I think it gets a little fascinating. But first, you might say to yourself, Mike, where could I go to find tickets for some of these games? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we have some options for you right here. Game Time. All right, here's the deal with Game Time right here. Brad, I believe you've used Game Time before. This is true.
Yeah.
All right, here's the deal. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And here's the great thing. It's not just about basketball tickets, Brad. You went to one of those crappy desert metal bands off these, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it was a game, but maybe looking. I'm trying to buy some last-minute Metallica tickets. May look there.
What about Trotsky's Ice Pick?
I was disappointed with Trotsky's Ice Pick. It's the one and only band you've ever recommended me, and they weren't as good as the name.
Do you like the name, though, is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Check it out there. Game Time, though. Jacob Franklin uses it as well. All right. Now, let's talk about the teams coming into the conference here for basketball. I'm one of the people that think that Bobby Hurley's actually done a fairly decent job at ASU, all things considered. You don't have a ton of help from the administration. You don't exactly have great facilities. You're always kind of on the periphery of the tournament. I think he's done a pretty good job. But I think this thing is going to unravel quickly in the Big 12. I don't know that style of play, that style of coaching is going to work well in the Big 12 there, William.
I think what you have is you've had a problem that Bobby Hurley has done what he can do there. He's not going to have – he is in many ways what Ernie Kent was at Oregon near the end.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that.
Really hard to fire the guy, but you're not going to get any better.
Right.
And again, Ernie Kent had higher highs. It seems like every year he's going to have to rebuild this roster because he's going to run 3 guys off because of his grading personality. He's always going to be able to bring in some interesting transfers. But it's going to take – ASU is what they are. They're not a sleeping giant.
Correct.
They are what they are.
We need to stop with this nonsense. They're not a sleeping giant.
Barring getting a special guy there. And whether that special guy is a retread like a Patino, who's, again, not going there. St. John.
Hey, we got to get to Patino here in a second, but go ahead.
Or you get some hot young coach that brings in something gimmick. They are what they are. And at your best, you're going to be in the tournament 2 out of every 4 years. That's just what ASU basketball is, barring getting the right guy. And that's true of every program in the country. Barring
is ASU basketball guy. U of A football?
I'm not sure they've had the highs or the lows at Arizona football.
Yeah, that's true. We go all in. I'm better than they do.
But in essence, yes, it averages out. They're about a 20 win they're a program that now under Hurley isn't going to have a losing record and isn't going to win 25 games. So yeah, they're Arizona football big between 4 and 8 wins.
But they also don't have the Kevin Sumlin, John Makovic to their name, but they also don't have a top 5 national finish to their name in our lifetime or a top 10 national finish right there. That was a good one.
Sendek is their Tommy.
Yes, yeah, that's a good one.
Evans is their Rich Rod, and now we'll see if and I don't.
Do you find it odd that Herb Sendek has produced more first-round picks in his short time at Santa Clara than he did at ASU?
Yeah, it's. I think one was a transfer, I know, but when he transferred in, no one had hopes for that kid. I
had no clue he was either. He
was like a 4-point guy a game from Illinois. Okay.
Right.
He can play. Yeah.
So, but I think they're going to have a hard time in the Big 12 because the problem is in the Big 12, these are good. I mean, again, there's not a lot of dregs. There's across the board. These are generally good teams. They might beat UCF. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for them, they're going to have what they should have done is they just should have said F it and either gone after Patino or who's the guy at Ole Miss, Beard.
Yeah, for sure.
guy with baggage who can win.
You don't have scruples anyways. Bring him in.
It'd be like, hiring Hugh Freeze for football or Petrino. You can win. There's a chance it might be special. You also know you got a 50 chance that you're going to be on probation in 3 years. Because, again, ASU basketball is what they are.
I got a question. I've been asking people this. Rick Pitino, in the next 5 years, does Rick Pitino make a Final Four?
Yeah.
I agree with this.
Other than Calhoun, he might be the best coach of my lifetime.
I agree with that.
He just got in his own way too many times, got a little, or let other things.
Likes the Italian dinners and the tables a little too much. I get all that.
Going to the NBA. Rick Pitino is a spectacular coach, and I think he'd be a blast to play for. I think Tark would have been great to play for. Like when I was a kid, those UNLV teams scared me, but part of me was like, man, if I could play ball, I'd be at UNLV. And just like I thought, man, if I could play ball, I'd be at Louisville.
When I was asking Bruce Pascoe, the great Bruce Pascoe, by the way, about covering those teams, because you got to remember, Bruce Pascoe was like a 23-year-old beat writer. By the way, I asked him about studying in China, and he immediately said, "Who told you about that?" And I said, "Don't worry about it, Bruce. Don't worry about it. I need a picture of Bruce in Chinese garb if I get an opportunity. I would love to."
I'm guessing he did nothing but nose to the grindstone. He probably didn't even go out and tourist at all, knowing Bruce.
I would agree with this. But by the way, Bruce is a real one, though. Like we talked about yesterday, you're going around the middle of the Middle East, nobody around, and you're riding solo in your own rental car. That's how Bruce Pascoe rolls.
Bruce is the man. He's great. He's great at what he does.
There he is. All right. Now, let's talk about Utah. I think Utah is going to be very good in football. I think their style is going to work just fine in football. I think in basketball they're going to be, as the kids would say, very mid, Brett Ellis.
Yeah, I think you're right.
See, do you think with Utah, I think you have to have almost a transformative coach to be able to win. Like Rick Majerus, no matter what you thought of him, Rick Majerus was an awesome coach. He's one of the best coaches. You need somebody like that at Utah, and I don't think that that's going to work, although I do like Craig Smith.
Jury's still out on Craig Smith. I just have no idea. I was a little surprised Krzyzewski wasn't a little more successful there.
Me too.
He fielded some good teams, but again, also had trouble keeping some of his players in this modern. Who's the kid? Was it Timmy Smith or whatever who ended up leaving? And I had some other good kids.
Timmy Allen,
yeah. But yeah, I think again, if Utah gets the right guy, I think that fan base will embrace it, and it could be a great home court advantage. It's not right now, and but it's also again that's a city where even though Utah's in the city and BYU is 45, 50 minutes away, there's as many BYU fans there. They're also devoted to the Utah Jazz. So it can be a tough place, but when Utah's rolling as they are in football, that's a great home field advantage in football. The basketball can be as well.
I think Arizona. All right, now let's get to Arizona. That's what everybody, including Keck, wants to be able to talk about. I think Arizona is going to benefit greatly. Now, I get a lot of Oregon State and Washington State fans that are very upset about this move for obvious reason. They say, well, you're going to lose more games there. I agree with you. Arizona is going to lose more games. But, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the mid-90s Pac-10, which is, to me, is still super underrated because you had UCLA at the apex of its thing. It was a top 5 to 7 program under Herrick. Mike Montgomery was a top 10 to 12. Arizona was obviously a top 5 to 10. Then you always had like 4 other teams right there. You had California. You had, even Washington under Bob Bender wasn't bad. Bill Frieder, there was a lot to like about the Pac-10 back there. The Big 12's better, but you never came out of the Pac-10 those seasons saying that you weren't going to be prepared for the NCAA tournament. If we were going to flop, which we did, it was going to be on our own merits.
Yeah, I've seen a few, not many, but a few people who are like, oh, Arizona's going to get exposed no. Iron sharpens iron. Arizona might take a 2 or 3 game hit per season. But all those teams also have to be playing Arizona. just like I said, USC might have a slightly tougher road to hoe in Big Ten football, but at the end of the day, they're still USC. They're going to be just fine. Arizona's going to be just fine. Again, you might not run you might not go 17-1 in recent, but again, when iron sharpens iron, and you're looking at Arizona consistently getting Sweet 16s and the like, you'll be just fine.
All right, we got to talk about BetMGM here for a second. You people out there have moved the odds up yourselves. Brad, it is now minus money to take Arizona on the over 5. We have been saying this from day one. Take the over 5 of Arizona. You have answered the call. BetMGM is here for all of you right now. Now, here's what you're going to do. Sign up for BetMGM. Use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses. Check out the show notes for full details. By the way, bet under ASU. They are going to stink. Bet over Arizona, as you've been doing right there, and you will be very happy with your results. Now, let's hear Shane Diefenbach, U of A enthusiast Shane Diefenbach, with the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
All right, real quick. Our guy Keck right here is going with his ASU education right here. Keck, it is I couldn't care less, not I could care less, because if you could care less, that means that you could care a lot less than you actually do. I couldn't care less. Why isn't up there, Keck? All right, Brad, I thought you were going to say something.
I don't just remarking that ASU named the freshman the starter at quarterback, and my initial reaction was like, oh, that might not be a good move because all the players who support Bourget, but then I realized everyone transferred out but Bourget. Right. I feel bad for the kid because I like the kid like the family, but thought it was an interesting move to go to the freshman in year one, game one.
I mean, that's one of those things too. Like, I guess if you're just going, if you know you're going to stink, I don't really have a problem with going with the freshman as long as I can protect the quarterback out there. It's like with the Willie Tuitama thing. I was fine with going with Willie Tuitama, but the problem was I couldn't protect Willie Tuitama out there, so I can't go with that quarterback. Rashad is going to be an interesting situation right there, Brad.
Yeah. Again, talented kid. Interesting pickup when he left Florida over NIL money. Part of me says you reward the senior who was a bright spot last year who has stayed with the program as opposed to the mercenary from Florida. But again, who knows what wheeling and dealings were done in the offseason to get the kid there. But sucks for the Bourgets.
What did you make of Wilner yesterday saying that it was Arizona applying for the Big 12 that actually forced the Big 10 to move right there, Brad?
Duh.
Thank you. Duh. Yes, exactly.
Again, I have an idea who you've been talking. You won't tell me. I have an idea, knowing some things. I was hearing things from people who talk to similar people, and it all jives with what you had been saying the whole time. Mm-hmm. And again, you've been misquoted. You never said Arizona was going to the Big 12, but you said Arizona had conversations with the Big 12. Guess what? They did, because they'd be stupid not to. I'm guessing they also had conversations with the ACC, the Big Ten, probably the Mountain West, just in case. Mm-hmm. So again, we all know that on Thursday night or whatever it was, Wednesday or Thursday, they applied for membership into the Big 12. And from my understanding, and yours may be too, Robbins was ready to go. Even if the ABOR said take ASU, he was going.
Correct.
Unless, again, that deal that got presented on Friday morning was spectacular. And it wasn't. Hey, but did you know they actually are going to record the games digitally and then you can watch them back?
No, that's the thing. I did not know this. Here's the deal. If you stream these games, there's a way to capture the moment and then come back and watch it again.
I will say this. We mock Crow. Guess what the Pac-12 network was awful at doing? Right. Showing replays.
That's a good point.
Because there were several times I missed games. I had family commitments or something. And I couldn't watch them on the app because they weren't. There was one time they played Oregon a few years ago. I went to a Friendsgiving thing, couldn't get out. It was my boss. So I'm like, oh, I'll watch the replay. They showed replays of the 2 overtime game. They showed replays of the Dennis Dixon knee blowout game. They showed replays of the one of the blowout. They didn't show a replay of that Saturday night's game until Thursday.
Right, for sure.
So, yes, being able to watch it on Apple at your convenience is better than we have now, Michael Crow, but it's not new technology.
By the way, James Casillas, who else ain't excited to go into the truck stop league? That is the reason the Pac-12 folded, was that exact mentality right there. The truck stop league. Guess what? In the truck stop league, they actually care about athletics, where you have half these programs in the Pac-12 that don't care about athletics.
Okay, here, let's say the Pac-12 had stayed together. You already lost LA. So the only really nice, cool metropolitan city left was Seattle. Because Tempe, Phoenix, going to the Big 12.
Right.
Denver, Boulder, Big 12. Salt Lake City, Big 12.
Big 12.
Anyone go? Is Corvallis?
Yeah, Corvallis
is beautiful, but is it better than Stillwater, Oklahoma? I don't know. I've never been to Stillwater. I've never been to Corvallis either. So the Pac-12 was already on its way to being, again, you lost LA. You know.
It was done at that point for me.
Yeah. So again, yes, the Pac-12 has some better cities, and some of the best metropolitan cities are going with you. And frankly, one of the best college towns is going in Tucson, or whatever you want to label. So yes, Washington and Oregon, it sucks losing them, but it sucks that the Pac-12 is gone due to mismanagement. But it's not. The Big 12 is going to be fun. It's going to be fun for a while because these are all going to be new matchups.
All right, Brad, where can they find you? What's going on with Brad Allis?
WSR Brad just posted a podcast this morning covering some of the same things we've talked about in terms of the rotation for basketball, and then I had to discuss a little incident I had Sunday. I got ejected from a hockey game for fighting.
Really?
Yeah. First time in 1,000 games I've been ejected for fighting.
Did you punt? Did you throw a punch?
I threw a glove hand. Oh, yes, my catch glove, which is my left hand.
Nice.
I threw it when the guy said, "You're not going to do anything." But I got blindsided. I got cheap shotted repeatedly. So I had to
Brad, you had to stand up for your manhood at that some point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't think I was going to get ejected, but I got ejected. So I go in that in some detail. I talk about the rotation for basketball, but that's been up. If you're on my Twitter feed, you can find it. If not, it's on. I think it's right now only on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts.
Right.
I haven't made the move to some of those other ones, iHeart and all those.
He is the great William Brad Allis. I'm merely Mike Luke. Jacob Franklin joined us late. Jacob, all of you out there, this was fantastic. By the way, Keck, you're growing on the people on here. Keep up the good work right here. Oh, I got to wrap real quick.
5 of a kind. First games today. I'll probably talk about later. Tyler's Farm Football.
Standing on the block, straight slang and rocks. Oh, here come the cops. Easy E right there, in for the love of the money. How about that, Brad Allis? That was good.
I don't know Bone Thugs. I've never listened to a full.
Brad's loss. It was from an earlier. It was from a kinder, gentler era.
It was when the kids I coached when I coached high school football. Hey, did I ever mention that one? Me and Kevin Woodman have something in common. But they used to I don't like that sing-songy rap stuff. I like the Chuck D's and Cool Mo D's of the world. I'm old.
All right, he's Brad Allis. I'm Mike Luke. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.